Dr. Jiggle and Mr. Sly had several different iterations. The first actually was a lesson in paying attention, and it was named Drop Your Pickle and Missed Your Fries. Something just ridiculous like that. Jimmy Gord was working in, like a McDonald's type restaurant in Victorian England. Basically he was this employee who wouldn't pay attention. So then the title Dr. Jiggle and Mr. Sly, I thought of that first as a lesson in self-control where, Jimmy gets dressed up like this Mr. Sly and he goes out and he starts dancing and he starts, hitting people and people go flying all over the place. In the end, we decided to make it a lesson just about self-acceptance. God makes us all special and unique, and we can accept that about ourselves and be who we are because we know God made us special.
When you know God made you special, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You can just be yourself.
For Rough Score, to sort of set up the mood for Dr. Jiggle as we push into the gate, or to the door. And in the book, Dr. Jekyll, that alleyway door is sort of is a character in and of itself. The book talks about that door, and so I wanted to use that in Dr. Jiggle as a central part as we push into that door. And I used for Rough Track the soundtrack to Vertigo to kind of give it a mysterious, scary kind of a feel. And then the door opens, creaks open, and then out pops this guy wearing a leisure suit, and it's just funny, kind of leading up to the edge of scary and then breaking it with, just something that's just really goofy.
Yeah, there's an element of scariness or spookiness in it, but we tried whenever it got a little too spooky, we'd have a little fun at the end of a cue like that and throw in just a few little pizzicato strings or eye blinks that just tell people, don't worry, it's lighthearted. We're just having fun with this.
A lot of times on silly songs, I'll get like a little piece, and I won't know what to do with it for the longest time, and that's what happened with SUV Song. I just had this little ditty, because I've always driven an SUV of some sort. I mean, I had a Jeep Wrangler, that was after my Ford Fiesta, which was my very first car, that one actually showed up. My Ford Fiesta showed up with the Cheeseburger song. That was my red Ford Fiesta in there. And then my next car after that was a Jeep Wrangler. And I kind of wanted to make it about sort of the ridiculousness of, having one of these things in the city or in the suburbs, because I really never needed it for anything like that. I remember I took it camping one year, and on purpose I went back into the kind of the off-roading it, and there was big crater, big holes in the ground and stuff like that. That's kind of where the line came from. And if there's ever you could go camping and find a ranger stuck in a ditch, because I actually almost got myself stuck in a ditch at 1 o'clock in the morning, camping, trying to try out my SUV. So I sort of realized the whole ridiculousness of that, and I wanted to write a song about it, but I just had this little piece and I didn't know what else to do with it. And I kind of figured I'd love to do it as a duet.
Then we could be the heroes. We could be the heroes.
We started with a Broadway version of the song, that's how the song starts. And I kept hearing like this power ballad, power guitars, big rock, 70s rock sound. So I kept bringing that element into it, and it was a lot of fun to see how it transpired then, because it, after that first chord, it drops back into this light Broadway feel and intimate, and then it just opens way up again. Adam Frick did a just fantastic job on the guitars and the drums and the bass and all those elements, and then I brought in all the orchestral elements and finished writing it out after that.
Shar Jackson first did the voice of Miss Agnetha in Esther. She sang the puppy song, and she's just hilarious. And so I thought that would be the perfect character for Larry to sing a love song with. We called Shar, and she was really thrilled about doing it. So she came in and just nailed it. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. And especially when they start, going into the hero chorus. I mean, she could just really, belt out those just hilarious notes.
I remember coaching her to sing it worse, because she's really a pretty good singer, and all that high stuff, she was actually singing it pretty well. We said, no, we gotta have it so you just gotta, you cringe when you get to that top note.
And now, a Snoodle's Tale.
The Snoodle's Tale is, for me, a really special story. I had this picture in my head of this little parable that I wanted to craft in this little world. And the goal was not just, how would Phil tell that story, but the goal was, how would Dr. Seuss tell that story? And so I locked myself away and just worked on the verse, worked on the rhymes, and tried to get the emotion of that metaphor, into this really fun verse. And it was late one night, and my wife had just gone to bed, so I came downstairs and said, and she wasn't asleep yet, I said, honey, can I read you a story? And sat down on the bed next to her and just read her through this, like 40 stanza poem that I just finished. And by the time I got to the end of it, I set it down and turned to her to see if she liked it, and she had tears streaming down both of her cheeks.
This little movie has a powerful message that's really addressed to all of us, and it impacts all of us. And it's a message that's very freeing, and it's a message that says how uniquely made we are in God's eyes, how much He loves us, and that our self-identity truly only comes from Him alone.
Far, far away in the land of galoots, where the bigglebag trees bear their bigglebag fruits, and far lily bushes all blossom in yellow, and fimbuttle plants squirt snowberry jello.
As I began to study the script, what visually came to mind right away was color. The first sensation that I wanted to throw at the audience was a sensation of, wow, this is a wonderful place. It's like a candy land. And then as the story evolved, we wanted those colors to grow even stronger until he reached a point into the middle of the story where our main character really had to make a decision. And at that point, we really muted the colors and took it back to be a little bit more of a gray, a little bit more monotone. And then as we got up into the third part of the story, where he actually meets up with the creator, we created more of a palette that's warm.
The establishing shot of the town square is painted, and that was actually the first drawing that I did for the whole show, or anybody did for the whole show. So once we knew that the tower looked like that, the buildings all around the tower looked a certain way, then everything else was designed to fit around that world. We got into such an organic design for the visual development of it. As I was drawing and painting some of the color keys and handing them off to other artists like Chuck Bomer and Joe Spataford, we started to realize that this show is going to be heavily painted. Just about every background you see, all the clouds are painted. Whenever you see ground that goes in the background like hills, or if you see crops, the yellow crops that you see in the background, that's all painted as well. And that's all done digitally using Photoshop and Painter.
Obviously, the score is 70% of conveying the emotion when you actually start putting the music behind what you're seeing visually. And I wanted first to kind of portray just, again, this happy, safe place that's fun to be. I kind of sensed the kind of instrumentation you might actually have at a circus. And when he went on to his journey, I wanted to emotionally start to portray a little bit more of threatening type music. Until he met up with his God character, I wanted the music at that point to become more orchestrated. The temp score is extremely helpful to the music director, and it's helpful to everybody along the pipeline of production. If you just went through an entire production without the music, without some kind of temporary music in that polling place, you're really missing out on emotionally what's going on there story-wise, and you're not conveying to all the production people who are involved as well what's happening emotionally, which can really affect their work and how it impacts what they're contributing to the story.
Mark Volcano did a great job of setting it up and had given me some musical ideas to get inspired by that really helped out. It's a cute little endearing story, but it's really rich with emotion. So we're jumping back and forth between this lighthearted music and this sadder music. I used a lot of simpler instruments like flute and melodica. And then we have the characters of the community that come around him, and they bring a flavor of a little bit of meanness and a little bit of raucousness in them, with this band that sounds like a calliope or a circus band, a little bit out of tune, a little bit out of rhythm. And then he climbs the mountain, and first there's a mystery to that. There's a loneliness, there's a silence up there, but then he meets the Creator, and there's a sense of peace. And so as he's coming back down the mountain, the orchestra is a little bit bigger, it's a little more joyous, a little happier.
In looking for the voice for our main character. We went through 6 or 7 different children, and Philip's voice right away, I thought, had that sound, had that unique innocence about it. Also, the enthusiasm that Philip has in his personality came through right away.
When I first found out that I was going to voice a character, that I was really excited.
I would say, okay, pretend you're on the playground right now, and you just got pushed off the slide. Think about how that feels. Can you think of a situation like that? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, here's the line of dialogue.
They just told me what to say, and I just repeated that, and they told me how to do the tone of my voice.
And he did a great job for that being his first time doing a professional dialogue recording.
I think the message is important. It's not what other people think of you, it's only the way that God sees you that matters.